back to the show. This is Mehrban Aranshad, and it is a pleasure to have you back listening. And today I have an interview for you with Karue Sell. And Karue was ranked as high as 371 on the ATP Tour. He also is Naomi Osaka's practice partner, and he has some really cool videos of him hitting with Naomi on his YouTube channel. Just search MyTennisHQ on youtube.com. And Karue has also had over 100 wins playing college tennis at UCLA, reaching the NCAA team final. He has also had a career high 15.01 UTR rating, which is very, very high. He is Brazilian, and he's won several futures tournaments, and he's also defeated Dominic Thiem, Edmund, and Hugo Dellien, I believe, in the juniors. So very cool to have him on, and we're going to be talking about a lot of very important subjects, including how to simplify your serve and get more power on it, how to develop a winning mindset, every single racket that Karue has used since the juniors, which was pretty cool to hear about, some of his favorite racket modifications, and the mental attitudes that you need to win the most matches, as well as some really cool drills for more serve power, and why he modeled his serve off Pete Sampras and how that helped him immensely, as well as the platform versus pinpoint stance on the serve. So obviously a lot of information. And if you think that's a lot, this is only part one of my interview with Karue. So you'll be hearing from us again next episode. So I do hope that you enjoy this one, and then immediately, or as soon as it's available, pivot to part two. But before we do go on to the interview, I would like to give you my pun of the day, which I'm sure you're very apprehensively waiting for. And I've been continuing it on for, I guess, the past like 5 or 6 episodes, maybe more. But here it goes. I once played a guy with 2 sets of arms, and that's why I wasn't surprised that he had such an amazing forehand. 2 sets of arms, forehand. All right. Well, I hope you got that one. And yes, hope you really enjoyed it. You probably didn't, but that's okay. It's good to be a little silly sometimes with these dad jokes, or puns as they call them. All right. Well, with that fantastic joke, if I do say so myself, let's leap straight into my interview. So here it is. Here's my interview with Karue Sell. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Tennis Files podcast. It's really an honor and a pleasure to have with me Karue Sell, who is an awesome tennis player and has an awesome YouTube channel, which I've been following and have really been enjoying just watching him hit pure balls. He has such great strokes, and as I said in the intro, he's had a lot of experience on the Pro Tour and been ranked, quite high. And so it's always great to speak with players who have achieved, the elite levels of the sport. So Karue, thanks a lot for coming on to the show, and welcome.
Of course. Thanks for having me. This should be fun.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited to get into it. So first off, I was reading your bio and your website and trying to do some research for this interview. But one interesting thing that I saw that you listed there is that you had visited Pete Sampras's house, and it seems like that is pretty important to you. You put it in your bio. So can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah. I mean, for a couple summers there, like while I was at UCLA, Pete was training for like some of the exhibitions that he was playing at the time, and his sister Stella is the UCLA women's head coach, so
Right.
he's often at UCLA, and he actually used to hit with a lot of the girls. I just found myself hitting with him a few times a week, and then eventually, I think at first we were doing it on clay, and then eventually we just sort of started hitting at his house, which was really, really cool. He has an awesome chord that he would blast. Like weirdly, he would blast like hip hop while we were playing, and
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know you wouldn't expect it, and it was like a really good vibe. And we would play for he was still obviously playing really well. So yeah, that was like a really, really, really fun thing. Like you grew up obviously watching him, and at the time when Guga was playing, there was like a lot of good matches between them and Agassi as well. So it was like a very, very almost like weird scenario there. I was like, oh, I'm now hitting with this guy here in LA, but it
Yeah,
was pretty cool.
that's pretty sick. Is there a particular part of his game that impressed you when you hit with him?
I mean, obviously his serve I mean, he wasn't really going full out on his serve, but I mean, he's still really, really good. And he's just in general, his ball is like really heavy, like he hits your racket and you feel it. So that's really, I mean, his forehand still like moves through the court. I think he might be playing like with like a Babala or something now.
Oh wow.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, but he just goes. So like he can still rip it. Like he can hit winners like kind of anywhere on the court, really.
That's very interesting. Is there any piece of advice or anything interesting that he told you that actually ended up helping you, or anything maybe that you observed on your own?
I think he never. We usually talked a lot more about golf than tennis, but I do. Funny thing, like on my serve, one time I was. This is probably like a couple years ago. I was like just doing like a impersonation like of his serve,
Yeah, yeah,
just for a video.
yeah. Right.
And then when I saw the video, I was like, wait, this motion is like way better than mine. It's like way more fluid than mine. And then after that, I just started like kind of doing the Pete Stampers, like kind of racket here in
Yeah,
front,
yeah. Toe up.
and it's
Yeah.
just like it smoothed out my serve like tremendously. Like I kept doing it ever since. So and obviously his serve is like all time, probably top three ever. And I was like, why wasn't I doing this like when I was in college or something?
Just copy the
So
pros,
yeah,
man.
I know.
I
Just
mean, you're a
like
pro,
I was,
so
I was a little bit too late for it. I wasn't even like doing it when I was playing pros. So I wish I had done that beforehand because like today my serve is like way better than what it was when I was like on tour or in college. So it's kind of funny.
cool. Well, this is actually an easy transition. I was going to talk to you about the serve a little bit later, but what was it about his motion? Like, is it just like the weight distribution back and forth that helped you, or what was it in particular?
It's a good question. I mean, I grew up trying to do the Fed serve, right? So I was always like
Mm.
trying to copy his. So I was always a platform server.
Mm-hmm.
But like the Fed server, I think it's a little bit more difficult. So as I was doing his, I think there was definitely like the rocking back and forth is nice. There's kind of like a momentum that goes into it. I'm not necessarily like a guy who has tons of power and just even like racket head speed. Like my power comes from good timing, and that just sort of helped me like with fluidity. I feel like the entire swing is just very fluid, and by the time I get to the ball, I'm at a very high contact point, and I'm just really blasting through it, but without feeling like I'm overdoing it in terms of power, in terms of like adding too much power that I feel like I'd lose maybe the fluidity or contact point wouldn't be as great or whatever. Maybe I'd muscle it. So I'm able to just sort of in a very fluid way, like hit the ball very clean, and it just kind of moves very naturally. So yeah, I just found it to be a much repeatable motion.
Sweet. And so, as far as like pinpoint and platform, just curious, like, have you experimented with those stances throughout your career?
I've done pinpoint for a little bit. It's not for me. I am particularly more into the platform serving for most
Mm-hmm.
people. I think it kind of eliminates like movements that can make serving even more complicated.
Right.
Um, I think it's platform serves are a bit easier for one second serves. I think kick serves are easier off a platform serve, at least in my experience. And then two, I think if you are not as tall, I think is much easier off a platform serve to like use both legs, get up and hit the ball a bit at a higher contact point.
Mm,
Where I think like the pinpoint serve, like you more slide into the court, so you have a lot of momentum. I think it's good for first serves, but like I feel like the tall guy, it's better for tall guys because you don't really need to get much height. You actually just want to get the body kind of through it. So I particularly think for most people, that aren't like 6'3" or 6'4" and above, I think platform serve is a little bit less complicated, and I think it's just easier, especially on second serves. I think a lot of I think a lot of female players should be doing more platform serves. I think they all like slide and they have a hard time hitting kicks. They're always
Mm-hmm.
sort of slicing the serve a bit more.
Right.
I think off the platform serve, I think they would actually do a better job with that. But there's very few girls that do it. So I don't know. I just find it to be a much easier motion, and I can use my legs a lot more. I think so.
Yeah, that's a lot of great things to consider there with the stances. I mean, yeah, thinking about platform versus pinpoint, I think, yeah, you think of like Isner and Query, like they're really tall guys using the pinpoint,
Yeah.
and then like I think like erotic was like kind of a modified platform, like it
Yeah.
was narrow.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, by the way? Like the narrow platform, what
I
benefits
don't
is
mind
that?
it.
Yeah,
I don't mind it. I mean, I just think like you just kind of have to do what is natural to you. But
yeah,
the erotic, I mean, it's kind of its own thing. Like I think very few people have
yeah,
done it. I don't think you should be very close together. I think like Monfils was doing it for a little while, very close.
yes.
I think it has to be like a little in between there. There's got to be some separation. Um, but just in general, I just find it to be just an easier serve.
Gotcha. Cool, Kurz. So one more question about that before we dive into your career, which is an interesting one as well. But um, you got any tips for us on getting more racket head speed? It seems like a lot of players they have like issues with like the racket drop, and they're just not getting quite that racket head speed, which is obviously key to getting more
Mhm.
power and spin, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Like serving for me was always really difficult. I was never really
Yep.
a big like a good server. I only really started understanding serving like actually fairly recently. I think the biggest part is I think people end up like kind of pushing the serve. Like it never
Yeah.
really snaps at the top. They end up sort of like going like very pushy through it. A great drill that I actually learned like while working with Naomi. It's like you actually stand on the tee, like on the tee, like on the service box,
Uh huh.
right behind the service box, on the serving like ad side, um, and you offer like a half motion, so you just kind of place the racket at the top. You try to like just sort of smack it down as short as possible on the box and wide.
Mm,
So like you have to like really snap it up here, like bah. So you try to
uh,
like really go like fast from up there, and it's all gonna be like this motion up here of like letting the racket drop and accelerate. And I do
huh.
this, with a lot of my players. I do it myself, and you don't really use much of your body. You just use the arm here and just like kind of snap it down. As again, you want to make the ball really go like bounce up and down and short on the box, and that really has helped me with like kind of that part of it because you got to be quick from the moment you got to trophy position to like the ball, right? That like kind of motion up with like
Yeah.
a lot of speed, and after that, it just sort of goes naturally. So that is a in general. Like think about hitting like at the highest contact point you can hit. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people let it drop too much, and then they sort of have to push it. If you place your arm up with the racket, and you can see sort of like, oh, this is where I kind of need to be. So I'm just gonna toss it and kind of catch it there. You know what I mean? It's like at that highest contact point. I think if you look for the highest contact point, you'll naturally accelerate a little bit more
Mm.
on the serve.
Sweet, love that. A lot of great advice, man. Appreciate it. So let's get into your career. Let's actually, get into how you got your start in tennis. I always love hearing about this because you get a lot of cool stories and
Yeah,
sometimes emotional ones. But how did you get your start in tennis?
mine isn't too emotional. It was just my dad. My dad was, your kind of typical. I think 5.0, like to compete, played in
Solid.
like tournaments and stuff like that. And you just have a little racket on the side, and you're playing against the wall kind of thing. But yeah, my dad used to kind of travel a little bit around, um, like our state, just playing tournaments, and now we'll just tag along, me and my mom, and eventually, you start taking lessons, and it just snowballs from there, right? Like it's just kind of that typical, parents play, and my dad's a very active guy, plays a lot of sports, so everything that I play, we just kind of always did together. So yeah, kind of like that, and then all of a sudden you find yourself playing tournaments at like I don't know age 8 or something.
Anything in particular that hooked you on sport? Any sort of feeling for the game or anything like that that you really, really liked about it?
I mean, I think it's tennis is like, that is one of those sports, like as an individual sport, it's like on your racket, on your terms.
Yeah.
I always liked playing team sports as well. Like I played a lot of basketball growing up, but and soccer, but there was something about tennis that was just like it's on your terms, right? I know that's like a lot of people say that, but it is true. It's like you do it, and
Yeah.
I think I mean at the end of the day, I was from a young age, I think good at it, and you start competing and you're winning, from a young age, and I think you eventually just get hooked to the feeling of actually beating other people and better than them. I mean, you're a kid, you don't really know, but it's just like I think that was a good time. I don't like particularly remember it too much, but I just know like from a young age we were already competing and having a good time with that. So I it's just like a fun on your terms sport at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I remember early days, just played a bunch of sports, and I was just the best of that one, and it just went up
Yeah,
from there. I enjoyed the
yeah,
winning and all that.
yeah.
But so a kind of random question: do you remember like your progression of rackets? I'm really curious, and you do like a lot of great racket reviews.
Oh
I
yeah.
think when I emailed you, like I was telling you, like I saw your VCore reviews and all that. So
Yeah.
what were the rackets you've been using so far?
Oh man, that's a great
From
question. I
first
actually
to
because I've
last.
always I've always known, like I know players. I'm like the guy that knows what everyone is playing with. Like I'll
Right.
notice someone changes rackets. I've always been like that. Oh,
Yeah.
like they'll say someone. I'm like, oh, he plays with that Babylon. What? I'm like, oh yeah. Like I just remember what the rackets people play. But for me, I played. I remember playing with like when I was young. I remember playing like I had a Pro Canix. I think was my
Wow.
first sort of like normal racket, and then I
Cool.
switched to some weird like Junior Wilson, like some blue Wilson. I remember
Mm.
wasn't anything great. Then I switched to. I think by the time I was 10, I switched to this. It was sort of like I think it was like a version of the Radical, but again, like more still like more kind of junior, very light.
Sure. Yeah.
So a version of that, and then like I think my first like actual I want this racket, and it was a kind of more of a like an actual racket. Was the N code, the Wilson N code,
Mm.
the
Yeah.
one that Fed was playing like kind of at his
Yeah.
prime, the red one. So I played with that probably for a couple of years, with the N code, and then I think by the time I was 13, 14 maybe, I made the switch to Yonex. Um, and so I went and um, what is it called? The yellow one, the classic yellow, the Albanian one.
Oh, the RDS
I think it's like
001. I played with that
RDS
too for a few years.
001. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I moved. I
Good
switched
racket.
to that, and then there was like I remember there was like another version of it that came out with like some black on it. So I played with that, and then I spent 10 years with Yonex. So every kind of new iteration, I was playing with it. So then there was like a red one for a couple of years. Yeah, I played my entire junior career with this like red Yonex. I can't even remember. I have to look at pictures of it. And then by the time I got to UCLA, I was already with this like Yonex 95 Yonex. I don't remember. They always had weird names. Like it was like, but it was like a progression of like pretty much 10 of them. Then
Wow.
eventually I moved to the V Core, the orange one, and then again the black V Core. And then after that, they actually switched to. So this is when I was playing pros. I was with the V Core, and then they switched to um, like a different string pattern that I didn't really like, and they also like
Mm.
weren't like the head kind of came in and like sponsored me for a little bit, so I switched to
Cool.
Prestige and Speed. Played with the Speed for the last few years, like a custom version of the Speed, and then back to the V Core 95 now. But yeah, so it was like a good 10 years of just playing with Yonex really. But the N
Gotcha.
code was like the first like real racket I had. I was like, oh, I'm playing with the same racket as Federer.
Yeah, yeah. It's always a cool feeling. They
Yeah.
sell so many rackets that way.
Yeah, I
But
know.
it's crazy. So yeah, I'm definitely getting a little off track from my like planned itinerary. I don't know if
Oh,
that's the right
really?
word, but like what percentage of players in your do you think like play with the racket that they're actually like selling versus like pro stock or some other, very old version?
Mm, I don't know. I really wouldn't be able to tell you.
Okay.
I think a lot of people actually think that every player is playing with like some special version of a racket that no one ever touches. And as far as I know, most people that I've played with, that I've trained with, just play with the racket they sell.
Okay.
Custom versions of it,
Sure.
like in a sense
Lead
of
tape.
like it comes already weighted. Yeah, exactly. It
Yeah.
comes like already a certain spec, but it's not like it's a completely different mold. Like let's say it's like a racket that weighs 320 grams, and all of a sudden you're just getting it at 340, like without lead tape. It is the mold that they sell for the most part. At least most of the people I know have been playing with the racket that they're selling. Now,
Hmm.
typically, it takes them a little longer, I think, to switch in a sense of like, oh, maybe you're playing with the VCore 95, and a new one just came out. They just repaint it. So that
Right.
that does happen where they kind of stick to maybe a racket for a little bit longer, maybe like 4 years or something. But I wouldn't say like most players are playing with anything custom. I think everyone's kind of playing with like what is being sold, which is you know they just ask like, oh, balance or lead tape here or whatever. Yeah, so I don't think it's like this deep conspiracy that people say.
I
Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, it's great to hear the other side of that. Curious, like, do you make modifications to yours? Like, I'm curious, like, what you do if you make mods.
With every racket, I'll add leather grip. That's kind of like a
Mm,
non-negotiable, and
got it.
depends. I think like for a long time, especially when I had those V-Core Pros that I was playing with at the time, whatever they were called, the orange one, the ones that Stan won his Grand Slams with.
Hmm.
Those I didn't mod it at all because the weight was perfect, the balance was perfect.
Hmm.
But usually I'll just off feel. I'll be like, maybe I need a little bit extra like weight just for stabilizing the head or something like that. So I had some lead tape, but I'm not one of those guys that's like, looking at the balance to make it perfect. I don't really like. It's all about feel for me. I'll add some weight and
Yeah.
I'll hit with it. I'm like, oh, this feels right, and that's about it. So nothing crazy. A little bit of like the ones that I have right now, the VCore 95 leather grip, and there's some like weight on. I think there's like 10 grams of weight to an M3,
Oh,
and that's it.
interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, it's funny. I only recently like kind of experimented with lead tape, and I think I put like 6 grams at 3 and 9. And I don't know. I'm the type of player who like hits with heavy topspin and loves to whip my forehand and all that. So for me, it actually didn't really work out too well. It just seemed like the head was a little
Yeah,
too heavy. But I think maybe what I should have done is like, counterbalance maybe at the handle or something. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. I think with more people that have more racket head speed, it's more about like actually it's some put some weight on the grip because then you can really pull the racket really
Mm,
quickly. That's what people do. They put maybe silicone at the bottom or something.
uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, for me, it's kind of the opposite. I don't really have that much racket head speed, so I need kind of the stability that I feel like the racket is really plowing through the ball. So in general, I think if you're kind of more plow through kind of player, you want something a bit heavier. If you have a lot of like very whippy shots, something a little bit lighter would be easier. So just finding that balance. But again, it's try and error. You do it. I didn't like it here. Maybe I'll change the position, the weight. Eventually, you'll find something that you like.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
not
That's
like
that's
a one. Yeah, it's not like a one size fits all kind of thing.
yeah, that's encouraging. And so you mentioned that for you leather grip is non-negotiable, and you did mention a little bit about like the, help with whippy strokes. But why is it non-negotiable for you?
It's just like a feel in the hand. I think it
Okay.
just like I can feel the bevels better, and just in general,
Mm,
like I feel like they're typically like the normal ones are a little bit too cushiony. Like you just like
uh,
you kind of can squeeze it a little bit too much, and I feel like I
right.
can lose my grip a little bit. Like I like it to feel like, my hand is like really on the right spot all the time. So leather grip just makes it a little bit better.
Sweet, awesome, crew. Thanks for that. So yeah, that was a little detour there. Yeah, no, appreciate it. So I know in in juniors, I think you were something like, was it number 33 in the world? Is that
Hmm.
right? Okay,
Yeah,
cool,
yeah.
cool. So
I got to that night. Yeah.
nice, that's awesome. So I mean, how did juniors go for you in general? Were you just like dominating, and also like where were you actually playing? I forgot what country at the time, but because you are Brazilian, right?
Brazilian. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
So I played mostly in Brazil. I started competing early. Like I said, like 8, 9 years old, and I was playing, a lot in my state. Um, I was just kind of state champion for pretty much every age category. But in Brazil, it becomes a lot more national once you start like getting a bit older. Here, I think here in America, it's a little bit more regional. Obviously, you played national tournaments, but
Right.
for the most part, I see a lot of people just kind of play in their own state. In Brazil, once you kind of get to a certain level, you gotta you gotta travel a bit around Brazil and play tournaments that count for the Brazilian ranking. So early in Brazil, like I probably like at 11, 12 year, I was already kind of traveling around the world, around Brazil.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I was always like probably the best in my state. And, went on the good year, right? The second year of the, once you're like in Brazil, like the year that you turn, let's say I turned 12, the next year I'm turning 13, I have to play 14, right? It's not until I turned 13. Here in America, it's a little different. You play until like your birthday, pretty much in that age
Right.
category. So in the first year, you're usually playing the older kids. So I could be like 12 playing someone who's like, maybe 14 and a half or something. So that's a little difficult. But I was always like, a good, like probably top 15 player in Brazil early on as a 12, 13, 14-year old. By once I started training for like every day, which was like 14, 15, I kind of had like a bigger jump in level. And so I finished number one in Brazil 16th,
Sweet.
um, which I had like a good Orange Bowl at that year. I remember I qualified, got to the semis, and so that kind of pushed me
Awesome.
to number one in Brazil. And then from that point on, just playing, I was already playing some ITFs like early, like 16s when I was like 15, 16, playing some ITFs like grade fives and stuff. And then after that, it was, just ITF circuit. I was lucky that at the time the Brazilian Federation had a lot of money, so they were able to sponsor sort of like the best Brazilians, or flights, stuff like that, not supposed to help, because all of a sudden you're traveling around South America and then going to Europe and stuff like that. So I did the whole ITF circuit, started traveling around the world. Played 4 Grand Slams, didn't play Wimbledon, but played 2 U.S. Opens, Australia, French, and just did all that. I mean, it's tough. It's a good preparation for playing pros, that's for sure. Like you're actually on the road like a pro. It's almost like an internship to becoming a pro.
Yeah.
So it
True.
was a good time. I definitely I feel like I could have gotten a bit higher in terms of ranking, but I the objective was always to play Grand Slams and all that. And then sort of towards the tail end of my junior career, I think that second year of 18s, I didn't do as well as I expected, and I started playing some futures as well, and I just sort of burned out. I was like, I need something different.
Mm.
I couldn't see myself really going to the pros at that point, so that's why kind of college came.
Awesome, man. So I saw in your bio, and I remember you talking about some of this, I think, but you've beaten Dominic Thiem, Kyle Edmund, Hugo Dellien. Were those juniors or pros, or can't remember?
It was all juniors. It was all
Okay.
like, I mean, team was that one Orange Bowl that I did well. I think we played like second round or third round.
Wow.
Kyle Edmund too, like was one of the juniors, I think, in Australia, in a tournament in Australia. I don't remember Hugo when it was. We played a few times because he was South American, so we played a few
Right.
tournaments. But yeah, I grew up with those guys, Londero as well. I actually beat Londero, like he hated me. I beat him like every time. The matchup was just not good. I think he beat me the last time, but I beat him like 4 or 5 times before he died. He just did not like me in junior. It's kind of funny. So yeah, it just, you grew up with those guys, and just everyone kind of I took a different route than most of those guys. So that's just, that was just the right thing for me.
Yeah, and so during your junior career, like, did you get to play with any of like the big time Brazilian pros or anything like that? Like, did Guga pop by where you were at all or anything like that?
A little bit. I mean, Guga hasn't been like he wasn't that involved in tennis after he retired. He has like
Okay.
more of like a charity,
Mm,
like Guga Kirtan, like little school for underprivileged kids and stuff. But he wasn't like coaching or anything like that. So he wasn't
gotcha.
around as much. Bellucci, yes, at the time he was really good when I was
Nice.
playing. But yeah, there wasn't that many. The guys that were like kind of the best Brazilians. They weren't training where I was training. But I did.
Mm,
I mean, I grew up just kind of where I was. There was a lot of futures guys and challenger guys. So we were training with all those guys pretty much, up until I moved to the U.S.
cool, man. Cool. So yeah, you mentioned UCLA. You got over 100 wins there, which is sick, and you guys reached the team final, I believe, which is amazing. So I guess first off, with what how was the selection process for college? Like, were you like immediately like, oh, UCLA, or did you have to pick among some?
No, I mean, things when we're not, when you don't live here, you don't really know what's like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
kind of know the better schools, but, you don't really know the difference of a school that is like 15 in the
Hmm.
country and a school that is like five. In your head is like kind of all the same. So as I
Hmm.
was, going through this process, my coach in Brazil actually played at Georgia. So
Mm,
I kind of wanted to go to University of Georgia at first, but just a timing of things, scholarship. I needed a lot of scholarship to be able to come
sure.
here. So yeah, we just started. I mean, I had already a bunch of offers. Like during juniors, you start getting the offers and stuff. But you just kind of at the time like, oh no, I'm gonna play pros, whatever. But eventually, you go back into those offers. But as I started, I was talking to South Carolina for a little bit, but I
Hmm.
actually pretty much committed to Florida State. I think at the time
Oh,
they had a, I think they've been good for a while, but I think they had like a top 12 team or something. I think the coach the dad was Brazilian or something, but yeah, we kind of connected. I didn't really know best, and I think the timing of things there was like just some issues with like until my SAT scores came, and I was a little bit delayed with going to school, so there was like a few issues there. So I pretty much committed to go there, and I had that we hired to just do transcripts and communication with the schools and stuff like that. And he just sent out a bunch of emails, kind of last minute, like Stanford, Pepperdine, UCLA,
wow.
and I think the timing just worked out. UCLA, I think one guy had just gone pro; they had like a scholarship available, and Marcos had gone there. We knew each other from
Mm,
juniors, and
sweet.
Novikov as well. We just knew a few guys
Oh
from
wow.
juniors, and I think he asked a couple of the guys. Billy asked a couple of the guys like about me, and I think Marcos was like, "I'll pick up this guy. Like he's good."
Nice, nice.
And they replied, "They're like, yeah, we got a spot for you." Like, and I didn't visit. I said, "Well, I'm coming." That was about it. Like that was it. It was like last second. I talked to the Florida State coach, and I was like, "Hey, like, no, I got the offer from UCLA. I'm gonna go there." And yeah, I got there like late in the season, like because the UCLA's quarter system. So I got there in the last quarter, where like Stevie was still in college and stuff like that. We made the Final Four that year, but I didn't play. I
Mm,
redshirted at 3 months. The team was stacked. And
mm.
then next year, the following year, I got in the lineup and never left.
Sick, man. That's sick. By the way, Marcus, I've seen he's had a pretty good year this year. I watched him play against one of my buddies, Ilya Marchenko. I've had on the podcast,
Yeah,
but in DC. But yeah, there's some great footage of you, I think, hitting with him on your YouTube channel. Maybe there's like a few of
yeah.
those.
There's
Yeah,
a few. Yeah, there's gonna be another one actually soon. Yeah, Marcos and I mean, we're like very good friends. He lives nearby me as well here in LA. So we hang out, we practice. I help him sometimes with things that I see when I watch his matches. So we just help each other. We just
nice.
have a good time, and he's awesome at like coming out and making videos with me and stuff like that. So it's actually like a really cool thing. So yeah, I actually like my car is at the shop right now, and I have his car while he's in Europe. So shout out to Marcus.
That's sick,
But yeah,
man.
no, we're really good friends.
Awesome. And how do you pronounce his last name? Is it Giron or how do you say it?
Yeah.
Giron.
Giron.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, he seems like a nice dude for sure. So,
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, awesome, man. So, what would you say are some of the keys, especially for maybe like some aspiring or current college players? Like, I mean, you obviously like destroyed people and won so much. So, like, what any keys that you would give these players to be successful?
I think college tennis, I've talked to, juniors about this and given a little bit of advice. I think it's a lot less about, actually being like good at tennis. It's more about like a mindset. One, there's a lot more pressure because you're playing for a team.
Yeah.
So you feel it. You feel it, the responsibility of having to win, of, not wanting to let your teammates down. And
Right.
I've seen a lot of people come into college tennis and crumble, where, the players that kind of come in and they're good, they're supposed to be like the next big thing on, whatever, our team or other teams. And they just couldn't really put it together. They couldn't put it together during college. Even when they played the individual events, they would do well. But like during the team thing, they kind of froze. So the advice is to, any aspiring college player or even college player, coaches want to see someone who's tough, like who is going to battle, who's going to win no matter what. It's a lot less about, pretty strokes and good hitting and things like that. It's a lot more about, toughness. You just kind of are who you are in terms of your game. I remember I had one teammate who like could barely hit a backhand. He came in my senior year. This kid, Logan Staggs. He was like 5'6". But he came in. I was like, this kid, like, he's gonna win a lot of matches. I knew he was gonna win a lot of matches because like he had his game, he had his game plan, and he would drive people crazy. And I love that. I love that. He wasn't a guy that I don't think he had any aspirations really of like going pro afterwards, but he could just fight in college. He would drive people bananas, and that is a for college players. Like, it's not necessarily about playing pretty, about hitting the ball well, about obviously hitting the ball well, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like, you're not gonna win pretty. You're gonna have to win ugly sometimes. And I was always good at not giving. I played mostly 4, 5, 6. I was a huge team player. Like, if I wanted to, we obviously we had like stacked teams, but I think,
right.
Through college, I just wanted us to win a championship. I didn't really care about like the individual results as much.
Love
So,
that.
if I was going to be a lock at 4, I'd rather be a lock at 4, than maybe not be as competent at 3 or 2, whatever. You got to be a team player too. Like, if you're coming in, like, obviously, like the high level juniors are going to want to, play high and, win NCAAs or whatever. But, sometimes you're going to have to take one for the team, and you need to be able to do that, for your teammates, for everyone else. But there's a lot more mental. It's a tough game. It's completely different than what we used to, coming in. Like, we just play individually all the time. So you got to be tough about that. And you got to come in, ready to go to war with these guys. And it seems like, again, it seems a little cliche, but it's a lot more mental than anything. Like, I think the guys that I played that I had trouble with, it wasn't necessarily because they were made the best tennis players. Maybe they were just like really tough, and you knew it was going to be a battle. So, in your own way, like, I seemed like a relaxed guy when I was playing, but like, I was like, there's no way I'm losing to any of this freaking guy. So, I mean, you have to put it in your head that you're just not going to lose to any of them.
Yeah.
And you're just, there's a pride that goes into it. So it's mostly toughness. It's mostly just embracing that.
Yeah, I'd love to dive deep into that a little more if possible. So, like, you get the mindset first, like, I'm not going to lose to this person. And then what else does it take? Because, there could be, somebody, like, I could just go against somebody and just, like, say to myself, oh, yeah, I'm not going to lose. But maybe you don't really necessarily believe it. And then I don't know, is there other stuff too, like that you got to do afterwards to truly nail that, like in your mind, so that it then goes towards like what you put out on the court?
Well, I think, tennis just in general, right? Like, I think a lot of most matches are won before they even start, right? Like you get
Yeah.
on the court, you, very rarely you're playing. You're either playing someone who's like worse than you technically, like, sort of speaking, or maybe better than you. Very rarely you just like ride at like a very level match. So there's always a battle of like, the guy who's like technically should be losing the match to get himself to like maybe win that match. So, as I was playing 4-5, I definitely like I thought that I was like better than most of the guys that were playing, aside from, USC and Virginia at the time, Baylor too. That's some good teams, but very few teams that I'd be like, okay, there's gonna be someone around my level at 4 or 5.
Right.
So I always played the way, I always tell people, if you're playing someone like lower than your level, the key is to like, because a lot of people have a hard time actually playing
Oh
lower
yeah.
level.
Yeah.
If you if they already kind of struggle believing that they're going to win that match, and you kind of come in like on it, and you hopefully get a break early, or you go up early, then it's pretty much match. Then at that point you're just administering. So if you're up like 4-1, 4-0, whatever, and this guy already kind of came in not really believing he's going to win,
Right.
you already putting yourself in a good situation. The worst thing you can do, especially if you're playing lower level, it's, you stay 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, 4-4, like just kind of playing to
And the
their
pressure.
level, and they're like, and they're all of a sudden they're like, oh, I can,
They believe.
maybe I can squeeze this one out. So it's a lot more mental than anything. But it's tennis. You can tell yourself that you're the best, and we maybe the guy's just playing lights out that day. It's just, you got to come into the match, solve the problems, and find the weaknesses and explore that as best as you can. Like, I mean, there's no real secret. It's just imposing yourself. Get up early if you can, and crush the relief. I think that's always a really important thing. And once you feel like they don't really believe anymore, like, you should be okay.
Gotcha, Karue. Awesome. And then, I do get a lot of questions about people struggling where like they'll win the first set, or they're up like 4-1, 5-1, and then like they just like mess up, and their opponent comes back. So, any advice on how to keep the pedal on the metal, so to speak?
I mean, I think keep it simple. It's always is a good thing. I think all of a sudden sometimes you're serving for the match, and you think you have to hit winners, or the game plan. Like, if you got to the point where you're serving for the match, or you're a 5-1, or you won the first set and you're up in the second set. If you got to that point, like, why would you change anything? Unless they all of a sudden have made an incredible adjustment. But
Right.
it's
Rare.
usually on your racket, right? So I just stay the course, like continue to do the things that were working, and be patient, and go for the shots that you do truly trust. Don't go for anything like silly in because all of a sudden I have to finish with a bunch of winners or something.
Yeah.
Just at that point, like, play completely to your own strengths, protect your weakness a little bit more. I mean, don't go for anything crazy. Let's say your backhand is worse. Why would you go for maybe a backhand winner at that point? That's all they want to do. Like, try to control the emotions. But yeah, I mean, it's also like experience, putting yourself in that situation. I think people think that it doesn't happen to anyone else. Like, if I'm serving for a match, I still like today feel it. You're still like, oh,
Yeah.
that emotion. It's just, you got to normalize it. It's like, just because you're feeling it doesn't mean that all of a sudden you can play anymore. You know what I mean? If you're just feeling those little butterflies, whatever, then it is what it is. You just gotta be able to play through it. And because again, everyone feels, just tell yourself that it's okay to feel that way, and go from there.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, any other things that you do to like calm your nerves down? Like, do you have a particular ritual in between points, or anything you think about in particular?
I think breathing is a very, very important. I think you would remember to, like, hopefully, like, slow your breath down, and that usually like calms me down. I don't really have any rituals besides, your normal go to the towel, like try to like not rush through it. Sometimes you want to, you're near the finish line, you kind of want to rush through it a little bit. I think that's an important thing, controlling like the tempo, maintaining like your routine. But I think all of that is just very personal.
Hmm.
I think my advice is like seek what works for you. I think a lot of people are trying to find, some magic way of doing it, and it's like you just kind of have to find your own way. I think, for me, I've always been, I actually like end up like distracting myself sometimes from the moment. Like I'll be watching maybe
Hmm.
another match next to me or something, and just kind of like not trying to like think too much. It's like, oh, this is a huge moment. Just sort of like relax and like let's go play the next point. But it is point by point. I think people like eventually they start, they see the finish line and their mind goes in a weird direction of like, oh, what if I choke? Stop. Like I think my advice to people too is like stop using the word choke. Like
Mm.
people say like choke way
Very
too
negative.
too often, like but
Yeah.
all the time. Like you lose like a game that was. I hear this in junior sometimes. Like it's like you lose a game that was 40-15. It's like, oh, what a choke. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like you're still in the middle of the match. You know what I mean? So like start those negative things
Yeah.
is never gonna
Yeah.
like really really help you. And people are so scared of the choke and so scared of uh, you know, especially in juniors, what their peers are gonna think and stuff like that. It's like don't worry
Yeah.
about those things. It's like it's your own thing, and we all choked. We've all done it. Like I've, what I mean. Like I lost a match point on a semifinal of NCAAs once. And we end up losing that match. So 4-3. So it's like it happens. You know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
happens. So, but I got to find your own like strategy. Breathing is very important. I've gotten into that recently, and trying to slow down your breathing and heart rate. It really pays dividends.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff there. Yeah, it's I wish I could go back in time like most of us do, like in juniors, I remember just at one point, always thinking like, oh, like, if I lose to this person, everybody will think, X about me and all that. And it was just
Hmm.
lame thinking about it.
Hmm.
It doesn't really matter.
I know.
Um
I wish you could go back like that as well. It would be like much easier.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's it's normal getting wiser as you age. So yeah, I mean, in terms of the pro tour, I mean, how was the transition? And was it like a pretty rough go around in the beginning, or did you just like get your first point like in the first tournament? Like, how did that go for you?
Well, so I had points before I came to college, and
Oh, nice.
then obviously I didn't play. I during college I totally coasted. I didn't want to play pros. I just wanted to play college tennis. So I never played like any events. After UCLA in 2016, I actually like quit. I didn't want to play pros. I started working at Pepperdine as a volunteer coach for a year. Um, but my senior year was definitely my best season in terms of like level. I was playing really well. So I got out of college playing well, but mentally not ready to play pros still. I just like, going through things, and I just didn't want to, I really didn't want to do it. I was thinking like, money wise, how am I going to do this? I just,
Right.
didn't want to do it. So I was at Pepperdine for a season, and I was hitting a lot with the guys, obviously. And I was living in Calabasas. I played at Calabasas Future at the time, and I actually got to like the quarterfinals. I beat the 2 seed. I qualified, got to the quarterfinals. Lost to Clun in a tough match. So I was like playing,
Hmm.
I was like playing lights out. I was crushing all the guys on the team, and eventually the season ended, and I kind of had to, do I really want to go the college route or coaching route or whatever, or like do I go back to like playing? I didn't give myself a shot. So I just kind of made the decision of going into pros. I was like, let's do it. Let's use the summer, play a bunch of matches, played a bunch of men's opens, made some money, got a lot of matches in, got confidence. And I started, I was living down here in the South Bay in Los Angeles, training at Carson a little bit. And I was like, oh, let's start in this. There was like this three California tournaments like Claremont, Laguna Niguel, and Fountain Valley. They used to have every September or August, September. I was like, oh, I'll start there. I don't have to travel. It's not expensive. I'll see what happens, see how I'm feeling. So I played Claremont, which was Claremont was my first tournament back, like for real. And I was playing qualifier, so it's 4 rounds of qualifying. And I qualified, got the number 1 seed. And I was like, oh, great. This guy, Chris O'Connell now, that he's like, I think it's like 140, 130 in the world. At the time, he was like 300. I was like, damn, like first match, 4 matches of qualifying to play the 1 seed. And then won the match in 2
Sick.
sets, and then won the tournament.
You're ready.
so won that match. I think I got a walkover the next round, and eventually, beat a few guys and played my teammate Marty Redlicki in the finals. So that was a battle. I think I won like 6-3 in the third.
Wow.
And then I was like, well, I guess I have to do this, right? So I went from, I had a couple points from that Calabasas tournament, but I immediately got up where I, was pretty close to most main draws. But yeah, I won that tournament. Then I got to the quarter. Couldn't play the following week because there was too many special exempts. So I actually couldn't play the singles of the following week. Had to play qualies of the third week, which was BS.
Yeah, after you're winning
it was totally BS. And then I qualified, got to the quarterfinals, and then like kind of pulled my back because my body was like, "What are you doing?"
So many matches.
Like it was too many matches. Because I won singles, doubles in Claremont, and I was in the quarterfinals and finals of doubles of Fountain Valley. So I went on like this crazy like streak, and then my body was like, "Dude, you're not ready for this." Like, So, but yeah, then I pros. I was, if I had gone at 18, like a lot of my peers in Brazil and played pros, I think I would have probably quit at 20. Like I don't think I would have made like 2 years on the tour. But now, after college, after kind of having all that and the experience, and still feeling like at 24, 20, I think at 24 when I was playing 25, feeling pretty young. So it's young for today's age on tour. So, I was playing free, having a good time, enjoying my time on tour, even though like I didn't, end up spending that much time playing, but it was really fun.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So, as far as like lessons learned, like while playing that you've maybe, taught others and everything, like from the tour, like what were the biggest lessons that you learned?
The tour it's a mental battle, man. It's really difficult to especially financially, you're struggling to travel and pay bills and things like that. Mentally, it's really tough, and I think that I won 3 futures, and I think all of them I won because mentally I was in a really good space. Whatever that means, why would that happen? It's still like I still need to work on figuring it out so I can like hopefully preach it to my players and stuff. But it was always there was a presence to those weeks where I wasn't worried too much about the next flight, the next whatever. You're just playing, and the tour, like I said, it is mentally draining, mentally exhausting. You got to find ways to. That's your home, pretty much, right? You're traveling all the time. You're playing all the time. You have to find ways to almost like feel like you're at home, even on the road. And I think that is my main takeaway. I think I'm a very realistic guy. To I think sometimes to a fault, and I think like you can stay out there and hopefully dream you can make it and play. But realistically, very few guys make it through and girls make it through. So you have to kind of, I think being present, and you have your goals, but being present in the weeks that you're playing, just sort of like not looking necessarily at an end of the journey. Like I have to get to top 100. That's the end of the journey. It's like, the kind of enjoying the journey there, the path there. And I think that's sometimes I struggle with that a lot. I was like, be playing a future and, you lose second round and you make no money, or go play some challengers and you lose in the qualies at the time. And you're down two grand and you're just like in your head, like, why the hell am I doing this? You know what I mean? And, you gotta fight that. I think like, today, obviously, there's a lot of emphasis in, the mental aspect of,
Right.
mental health and everything like that. And the tour is definitely not a place where I think mental health in general, like thrives as a collective. Like, you're alone a lot, or, obviously you have friends and stuff, but, you're there, like, we're all like technically enemies. So, um, so it's just a difficult thing. You have to like just be, if you're going to play pros, no matter what your level is, like if you're going to make it or not, you have to be mentally ready for it, because it can really be difficult. So, work on that however you can do it, however way you can work on your mental side of your game. I think that's really important.
All right. I really hope that you enjoyed my interview with Karue Sell. And Karue, thanks a lot for coming on to the show. And we will hear from you and myself again for the next episode. But definitely encourage you to check out MyTennisHQ.com and also search MyTennisHQ on YouTube. And we will list all the other links that we mentioned to Karue and MyTennisHQ's various social media pages in the show notes, as well as the books that he mentioned, probably with some stars in place of the F word. But anyways, actually, I don't know if you even heard that yet on this first half, but I will still list the links, the books that he mentioned, which are really from the second part of the interview. But regardless, thanks a lot for listening. And I do want to leave you with a quote, as I often love to do at the end of the show. And this one is by Frank Peretti. And Frank said, "Don't be perfect, just keep getting better." Love that quote. And also, which I usually say before the quote of the day, is that I would really appreciate it if you would leave a review for the Tennis Files podcast. And I believe that we are at 99 ratings. So it would be cool if you got us to over 100. So I definitely would really, really appreciate that. And that is it for this week. So thanks a lot. And again, if you enjoyed this episode, then definitely tune in to my episode next week with Karue for part 2, where we'll hear a lot about his tournament experiences and practicing with Naomi Osaka, what Naomi is really like, and developing strategies and tactics for your game, as well as hitting better returns and a lot of other great tips. Alrighty then. Well, thank you for listening. And until next time, this is Mirban Aranchad signing out.